get sworn in. And
Forever.
Paul Bamford is coming.
Yeah. Paul's coming from the other side too, so it's,
The time is 7:01, and I call this meeting of the Finance and Warrant Commission to order. I would like to grant permission to Westwood Media Center to live stream and record the meeting. Would anyone else like to record the meeting? Welcome to the reorganization meeting of the FinCom. I'm Allison McCarthy, Administrative Assistant, and I will be leading the process of the nominations of the new chair, who will serve for the remainder of the calendar year 2025 through town meeting in May 2026. Let us all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I will do roll call. Bill Bruce.
Here.
Mike Gay.
Here.
Alex Yale.
Here.
Christopher Marks. Not here. Chris Pareda.
Here.
Christine Cannon. Here. George Laham.
Yep.
Margaret Driscoll.
Here.
Mike Powers.
No, but Chris.
Chris Marks.
Paula McLaughlin.
Here.
Brian Sturma.
Here.
Seth Frederickson.
Here.
And Chris Marks.
Here.
Make a note he was late.
She didn't finish roll call.
That's right. Technically, I didn't. Okay, we have a few members absent. Susan Flanagan Cahill, Paul Bamford, Angelia Hughes,
Angela.
Angela, thank you,
And
sorry,
Mike Powers.
and Mike Powers.
Angela?
Angela, come back.
That's awesome.
Bring the band back. It is awesome.
I will now give the floor to our town moderator, Jim O'Sullivan, for his opening remarks and introduction to our new FinCom members.
Thank you for serving all of you and to the new members. Reappointed members are Bill and Chris. Paul Bamford's going to be joining us. Paula McLaughlin, I think everybody knows, I hope.
I do.
And Angela Hughes, who's coming back on, most of you know her.
So happy to have Angela back.
Right, right. And fortunately, this year I had a glut of people who wanted to get on. So there are a couple of others lined up if we lose anybody. But it's nice to have extras rather than to go looking for people.
So much for the charter committee's concern that there weren't enough people to fill the slots.
Yeah, well, I got a couple of calls after the election on June the 3rd, too.
Interesting.
So, good. You got a challenging year ahead of you, I think. But you know me, I try to appoint you and stay out of your way. I rely on the chairs to let me know if there's a hot button issue that I should be ready for at town meeting. There was one speaker at town meeting, I didn't do a very good job at explaining how he was crossing the line. He was talking about Section 8 certificates and low-income housing, and we cannot discriminate against people of low income, Section 8 certificate recipients, and the more we talk about it, the more the town could get into trouble. So just be careful of that. But thank you all for serving, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go over the procedure for nominating and electing a chair. If you are interested in making a nomination, please raise your hand when I ask for nominations, and I will call on you. Please state the name of the person you wish to nominate and give a brief reason why you would like to nominate him or her. You may nominate yourself. I will then ask the individual if they accept the nomination. I will ask for a motion and a second, and then all in favor. And that will make the individual a nominee. I will repeat this process until all nominations are heard. If there are no other candidates, then we will be voting that one nominee as chair. If there is more than one nominee, then each person will be invited to make a few comments. Each nominee will be invited to make a few comments, and then we will have an open discussion about the candidates. I will do a roll call vote at the end. I will now entertain a motion to open the nominations.
So moved.
Second.
Is anyone interested in making a nomination for chair? Please raise your hand and give your name and a reason. Start with you.
Michael Gay. I would like to nominate Bill Bruce. Bill has done a phenomenal job this past year, pulling everything together. It was a pretty difficult year, and especially with the special town meeting. Having worked very closely with Bill, I think he did a phenomenal job, kept us on point, and I'd love to see him bring it back.
Bill Bruce, do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
I will entertain a motion to make Bill Bruce a nominee for FinCom chair.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to make a nomination?
No other suckers in the room?
Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the nominations.
Motion to close the nomination.
Second.
Second.
Any opposed?
Yeah, normally you have to take a vote.
Yeah.
Would
You
you
have to
like
vote.
to talk before we vote?
Yeah, you need to make a speech.
You are
Brevity
welcome
is
to
the soul of
open-
discretion.
Be careful what you ask for.
Be brief, be sincere, be seated.
No, I mean, to the returning members, thank you. We had a really challenging year this year with a lot of extra meetings, a lot of extra stuff, a lot of extra time. You know, I appreciate your dedication through the process. A lot of warrant articles, more than I've seen in my time on this committee of 6+ years now. So just really appreciate all you working together, you know, to help support me. And, you know, we'll talk more in a bit, but I definitely want to get feedback on what worked, what didn't work, and what we can continue to do better to make it, you know, productive for all of you, but also productive, you know, for the town people we serve. But I know this is a volunteer committee, and just appreciate all your support, and welcome the new members here and not here.
Is anyone else would like to make a comment before we vote? Seeing none. Since we only have one nominee, I'm going to ask if we are all in favor.
Aye.
And now I will turn the meeting over to you.
Good job, Allison, there you go. Ready for Jim's job now, town meeting.
Yeah.
Who did a very nice job, I thought he did a very nice job
It was a
under
challenging meeting.
very
That was a
difficult
challenging-
circumstances. Actually, miserable circumstances, and you did a very nice job.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, down on the agenda. I already kind of made my introductory comments, but definitely would like to get just a little feedback from all you. And, you know, there was a lot of change this year. We tried to streamline things. We put stuff up on OneDrive, trying to get you information quicker, trying to keep the meetings, you know, as tight as we can, and focus, but would welcome feedback, like what do you feel worked, what didn't work that we should look at or look to improve from a process standpoint. Any thoughts? Sorry, keep stepping into
I
this.
love the OneDrive. I thought it was super. Of course, it didn't prevent the town from not giving you the information quicker, but it certainly got it back out to us as quickly as possible. So that was great.
Yeah, and I'll just elaborate on that. So, Chris, one of the things that Allison is going to lead is figuring out a way where when we go to OneDrive, there's more of a tree view structure. So we'll be able to see all of the materials from previous meetings. There were times where I'm, you know, running a million miles an hour and I go to a link and it's just that specific meeting and I want to refer to materials. So we will absolutely work on making that better so that everybody has access to all of the material.
Great.
You go ahead. Sorry, I can't
Yeah, no worries. Just
like that direction. No.
One of the things, and I don't know if we're directing this to Molly, but one of the things that came to light this year was a FOIA request for everybody's contact information on FinCom, which led to one of our members resigning. I would absolutely like to have town email addresses for the business of the town, so that we're not, you know, kind of commingling the personal emails for all of the members. You know, we were never subject to a FOIA request for our emails pertaining to a particular subject, but that's something that certainly could be done. So I think and as I've said to you, Molly, I'm happy to, be on a call with the Microsoft team to talk about, any kind of negotiations, as that's what I do. But that would be, I think, a good change, because I think it crosses over into, kind of some uncomfortable conversations on our side.
And I think it's happened in other committees in town too,
Yeah.
where people just like forget it.
On that issue, I got a text message from somebody advocating that I vote no on the election as I was walking into the polling place.
Yeah.
A lot of us did.
I got that.
So I only assume that person got my telephone number from that phone.
I would say that was a bad assumption, Chris, and the reason I say that is because both of my sons, who are not
They
in
got it
any
too?
database, got that same series of texts.
Interesting,
So I think there was an organizational kind of push to do that. Whether you voted for or against it, doesn't matter. Like, again, that's something that people can do. I think what was shared via that FOIA request is more email address, but I actually don't know.
Okay. Interesting, okay.
Once you get those email addresses, be careful and use only the town email addresses.
I deleted it.
Understood. But I think, Jim, that would be preferred. And then if anybody needs help kind of setting up so that you get those notifications on your phone or things like that, myself or other people that are, more technical can help you with that.
Thanks, George. George will need that.
Yeah, George can do that.
I hate technology.
I think one thing I'll throw out there too, and this is, as I have reflected, and I'm sure other people have reflected on post-town meeting, post-special election, and the clear, I'll say, divide in the town. I think it's so important that people come with their full self and they bring the arguments, and that we vet things in a way, and and I almost will say that I am guilty of potentially pushing hard on my point of view, which, it's tough for me not to do it. But when we come here, we have to do what's right and what's in our heart, and we listen to all the data. And that doesn't necessarily mean everybody voting the same way. The best FinComs are ones that are, not necessarily split for the sake of split, but are, coming with the town's points of view. And so I just, personally, I will, do my best to kind of carry that message forward, and treat everybody with that respect, regardless of what your position is. So.
So I was just saying, like, I agreed. I think a lot of the changes were great. Love the OneDrive and the coordination for everything. So much it's, helpful. My main feedback would be I would hope that town council can go back and look at the open meeting law requirement based off of how they define that this year because of public requests. I don't know how anybody at town hall talks to each other without it being an open meeting violation based off of that definition. It really made it impossible for all of us to schedule meetings, which is not decision-making meetings. It is just fact-finding, that we're bringing back here for the public forum and discussion. So it seems like the citizens making some of these requests don't understand how much they're just hurting this process that they want to have happen. And, yeah, so again, but by the definition, people can't talk to each other at town hall. So I don't know how that was defined after all those years, this year, for the open meeting thing, for the subcommittee meeting. So-
It made it very hard, I know, on all the subcommittees to get anything done, because even if you wanted to talk on the like putting together a PowerPoint, you had to have.
That was kind of ridiculous. So I would hope
It
that
was absolutely ridiculous.
I would hope that if we can define it as those are fact-finding, conversation, we're getting information, but decisions and stuff happens in this forum. I would hope that they look at that, because if they don't make that change, this whole committee becomes hard to be part of.
It becomes hard to have subcommittees moving
Yes.
forward. There's no point. It all has to kind of be here. You
Yep.
can't really
Yep.
do that.
I'd like to add one thing to what Seth is saying. It also eliminates, and Mike's the same thing, it eliminates the consensus viewpoints, because what's forced to happen under these town meeting laws is you have a group, you meet with say the school committee, you meet with the school, then you come back, then it's one person putting everything together.
Yeah.
So it's one member of the finance committee doing everything. So you lose the consensus, the brainstorming, the meeting of the, you lose everything. Now, I don't know if we can change it in Westwood. I think it's more of a state law, but I mean, he's right. I mean, I don't even know how Chris Coleman can talk to Dottie Powers at Town Hall. They can't.
Open meeting violation immediately, based off that determination.
Whether or not that particular case would be, depending on what they were talking about, I think what we need to do is get real guidance from Pat Ahern to say, do the subcommittees, can we maintain the subcommittee structure without, posting every meeting? If we can't, then quite frankly, I think we probably need to change that whole process.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
Because I don't want to violate an open meeting thing and call you tomorrow and you say, I can't tell you. How did the subcommittees work? And, it sounds like it's counterproductive, like you'd have to have every, public safety or schools or whatever, all discussed completely if you can't meet in smaller groups, so.
It was a Zoom meeting that you had to have, that any town, that any neighbor or any citizen of the town had to be there and watch Seth and I put together a PowerPoint for the schools.
Had to be given the opportunity to be there.
Okay.
Which means we had to coordinate it, publicly post it, so that takes time, and we all have lives, and that's
Yeah.
a hard thing to
And this is
coordinate.
volunteer, yeah.
Yeah.
So the history of the subcommittees, actually Chris and George, George Hertz, created the subcommittees a few years ago. And the concept was, let's do smaller groups that can engage with the different departments. And then, instead of, having everybody, involved in the conversations and in going deep, we can have these subcommittees come back, meet with them multiple times potentially. But, one certainly good meeting, and then come back, effectively create a summary of that engagement. Now, all of those department heads still come before us. So everybody still has the opportunity to engage them, but it just allowed deeper engagement into the budget for those different groups. A few years ago, there was no concept of a violation of open meeting law. So we were meeting. We would then get together as a subcommittee. We would typically do that before the meeting with the departments. We would get all of our questions together. We would send those questions to the department, and then they would come prepared. We'd go over those, and we'd have a bunch more. And then we would get together again. We would create the slides. We would talk about who's presenting which ones. And then last year there was a FOIA request, not FOIA, excuse me, an open meeting law violation filed that we had violated, that we should be posting those meetings. And then Pat weighed in and said, because
The subcommittee
the
meeting.
subcommittees, if more than one individual is meeting to do the business of a subcommittee, by the letter of the open meeting law, it would be in violation. Therefore, you have to post. So then we had the whole process of the whole, the requirements around posting and, the time that you have to do it before the meeting, and you have to make it available to the public. And it just became so overwhelming that I think last year, quite frankly, our subcommittees were not as effective. And we couldn't get together, and so in effect, one person put everything together. If more than one person went, we had to post. So a lot of people didn't have more than one person go, they had one person go. So it kind of fell.
Then you don't know if you're all hearing the same thing, or,
Of course.
to your point earlier, representing the entire town and what everybody thinks. You're not getting that with one.
Yeah.
It
person.
essentially creates a committee of 4 that operate as 4 committees of 1,
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
which isn't effective.
You may want to have somebody from the State Ethics Commission come
Weigh in on
and
it,
talk to you about it, and tell you what you can do and what you can't do. I think two members can talk to each other, unless you're the select board. If there's only 3 members, 2 cannot speak. But if there were a 5-member select board, 2 of them could speak
We can speak. but it's-
informally, I think.
Informally, yeah.
Yeah.
In doing like a subcommittee business, we were told that we had to.
But if a subcommittee is, the way I understood it, if a subcommittee is appointed by the chair, and it's published that it's appointed, which these are, they are considered an ad hoc committee of the finance.
3, 4, 5, whatever the number is. yeah.
So whenever you have 2 or more, I mean, Bill and I are at Downey, we're doing a barbecue, we talk about FinCom. It's not a violation because we're not on the same committee, but if we are, boom.
Okay, well,
So we'll take that.
A suggestion maybe to navigate around it is, because I experienced the challenge of being the chair and having folks that couldn't make the meeting time and it was pre-scheduled and all the things, we could do a FinCom meeting like this one, where we just have that as an opportunity for the subcommittees to sit at an individual table and prep and chat and discuss. And then on the backside of the actual meeting, do the same, where you can put together the slides or the reports or what have you. So basically schedule a meeting just like this, where everybody hopefully can make it and have that as dedicated time for us to say, great, the three of us are gonna sit at this table and go through the budget and align on questions. And then we'll have to have the posted meeting for the actual heads of department, and then we can do this again. I do think it would save us some coordination of like, oh, Bill, you free on Tuesday? Oh, no, you've got a trip, whatever. So that also may get us away from any violation where we're calling a meeting. If somebody wants to sit in the audience, they can. If they want to sit at the table with us, they can, right? So that's, if we want to keep the subcommittee the same, we should just basically block out 2 meetings, one pre-sit down, one post-sit down, to allow for this discussion and grouping of the questions.
And then in that scenario, if we still are held accountable to the open meeting law, still post our actual meetings with the with this.
For sure, you post 3 meetings. One is this pre-workshop meeting, the second is the actual meeting of the department heads, and the third would be like the wrap-up, put the slides, agenda, whatever together, sit on somebody's laptop. I mean, that would alleviate the concerns, and frankly, I think would reduce some of the burden on,
It's hard to schedule.
you know, scheduling, and people are traveling, and I can't do 3, but I can do 4, whatever, so I think that
We
would.
target 2
No,
of the lighter agenda meetings, put that on the backside.
Yeah.
In the event that the state is still allowing for Zoom, we could do breakout rooms and things of that nature. So, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully they still do, so we can do some hybrid again. 'cause the
Molly
hybrid
said
did
they're
work well.
still allowing for Zoom until when?
27, though, I don't think you could do a breakout room because then the public wouldn't be able to.
But we could
Could they
separate
option-
in
could
a
they
room,
choose
right?
You
which
can
room?
option into them, maybe, but Zoom is still available.
Okay, cool.
Or we can still, so we'll still be able to do hybrid then next year if we wanted to.
And the room next door has been set up as a full hybrid.
Perfect.
There we go.
Cool.
Sounds great.
Any other?
Motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
We have to, I think we have to vote for them.
Actually, I've got one other thing to throw out there too. One other, it's a potential. With the vote having come, against FS1, there are a number of things that we quite frankly can't determine as a next step. So in the select board meeting that was, that took place, what day is today?
Monday.
Monday, 2 days ago. The select board is gonna look at all of the options. We, as the FinCom, typically don't get back together until September, after the summer. That most likely is still gonna be the case. There could be scenarios where that isn't the case, and we have to consider a warrant article sooner for an earlier special town meeting. I have no indication that that's gonna happen, but because there's this uncertain future, I think we all have to be aware that that might happen. In the event that it would, I think, Bill, you would get in touch with everybody and say, here's
Allison
what
would
we're
get in
being
touch.
told, and go from there. Jim, I'm sure
Coordinate a meeting and.
you'll probably know that pretty early too, that if something like that were to happen.
You would think.
Yeah. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Presumably.
Some people go away, I mean, and again, there's no indication that something like that's gonna happen, but who the heck knows?
I'd like to piggyback on what Mike said, just because it is, I'm sure everybody here's phone, have gotten a few phone calls, my phone has been blowing up. Not so much about surrounding FS1 not passing during at the town election, but more so in light of an email that went out, which was a public email, so it's not, and again, I'm just speaking as George Laham here, I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee. An email that went out on the schools saying that they're gonna need, I don't have the exact figures, but somewhere like $250 million. And I think that in the February of 2025 meeting, we requested that we kind of get the big picture. What do all these projects, so we're not just looking at the fire station, we're looking at the fire station, the schools, the entire town's capital wasn't available. Wasn't available February, March, April, May. It came out in 2 weeks ago, it came out roughly 2 weeks ago. So now everybody has the full picture. And I think as a finance, it is my suggestion or my vision as a finance committee, we have to look at it holistically and not take sides of school versus fire, because I am worried.
George, we've been asking for a
Yeah.
priority list for
Yep.
3 years.
Yeah.
I
was gonna say that.
Don't
agree.
hold your breath.
I just think we have to be very careful as a finance committee to look at it based on numbers, unemotionally, because it's gonna be right now, everybody's saying, well, what's more important? You know, fire station or the schools? And people are very heated right now about it. And that is a concern that I have. The other comment I want to make is it was started with Chris and George, and I thought it was fantastic. And I think that Mike and Bill did a great job this year. The chairman of the finance committee, it's nice to split up and have a co-chair. And I thought they worked, George and Chris did a great job working together. And I thought Bill and Mike did it, and I hope the chair considers doing that again this year, because it was nice to have, I think it worked really well.
Appreciate it.
Go ahead, Chris, now you can meeting adjourn.
Oh, I think we have to,
we
we have to vote on the
No,
amendment.
I echo George's comments.
I'll entertain a motion.
Oh,
I can't see.
to adjourn.
What's the date?
Approval of minutes.
4/28.
Yeah, make a motion to approve the April 28th, 25 minutes.
Second.
If you weren't there, you
I
abstained.
recused
You
myself, I
abstained,
wasn't
yeah.
here.
You can abstain.
So,
Abstain.
all those in favor, do I have to do a roll call, or do I?
No,
We can just go,
No.
right?
Everybody's
All
here.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Okay.
One abstention. Now I'll entertain the other motion.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Make all the meetings like
Abstentions?
this?
Done.
29 minutes, Dale.
Wow, that was.